Hello, and welcome back to the PNN. My name is Parker Taft. Today is day 18, and we're going to have another book review coming to you today. Today's book for our book review is Choosing Civility by Mr. P.M. Forni of Johns Hopkins University. Now, many of you are probably asking, why do I need to know civility? What does this have to do with personal development? But I think it has a lot to do with our own quality of life, going through life. We always want to be the nice one. We always want people to be nice back to us. We always want to be treated decently as human beings. And I think if we all learn to show civility to others, society will learn to show civility back to us, and thus we will make a nicer society. So we will lead by example. So let us get started. So, Choosing Civility, written by P.M. Forni, co-founder of the Johns Hopkins Civility Project. The Johns Hopkins Civility Project was founded by P.M. Forni himself, created in 1997 as an aggregation of academic and community outreach activities aiming at an assessment of the significance of civility, manner, and politeness in contemporary society, now reconstituted as the Civility Initiative at Johns Hopkins. I like to point out that this was an outgrowth of a belief in the mid to late 90s that American social interactions were coarsening and worsening when compared with previous generations. And they wanted to get to the bottom of why that was happening and how they could change it or at least reverse it so that the next generation would still have some modicum of civil discourse and interactions. Now, it's been found out that we've been improving in some areas in terms of civility and decreasing in other areas. We'll get into that in a little while. It was published in 2002. The book discusses the coarsening of everyday interactions between people in American society as we undergo the transformation from an old to new value system. As we all know, from around the late 90s until now, so about a period of roughly 25 years, American society and global society in general has been undergoing a revolution thanks to a little thing we call the internet. And then in the late 2000s, you get the advent of the smartphone and then Facebook. And then in the mid-2010s, you get the popularity of Instagram and Snapchat. And now, of course, you have the development of TikTok. I won't go into my beliefs and ideas about TikTok, but let's just say they're not the best. So, getting back off tangent, we also saw at this time an increase in hostility, both in the political arena, social arena, and economic arena. People became more combative and competitive. People began feeling threatened more. Cyberbullying and bullying in schools skyrocketed, as well as violence in schools. And they were curious as to why this was happening. And it coincided with several other projects that could be found across the country, everything from the Mormon Church to the U.S. Department of the Interior participated in programs and studies to find out what was going on. So, the important lessons that we should take away from this book are that he emphasized we are more polite now, such as accepting people as equals in the workplace, accepting people who share different views or beliefs religiously, politically, sexual orientation, etc., while older practices of civility have fallen away. A good example is we now accept a person. We now are more open and accepting of women in the workplace. Minorities have greater representation. We often interact with a greater array and diversity of people than we normally would have even 30 years ago. But the older ways of civility, like, the eloquent speech, manners, please and thank you, holding the door for people, all seems to be falling by the wayside. And some of these old practices falling away may be good, others maybe bad. We'll let history make the judgment of that. He's just talking about how some of the older practices can be mixed in with the newer practices of civility to create a better and nicer society on the whole. And he gives practical tips on how to reintroduce civility into our interactions and practice it in our everyday lives. So, we have the 25 rules of civility that he talks about in his book. 1. Pay attention. This seems like a no-brainer, but you'll be surprised how many people zone out in conversations, whether purposefully or in the process of formulating their own response to that statement or question. They're not really fully understanding what is being said. So he advises that you break away from that habit by looking at them, making eye contact with them, and listening actively. making nods, comments, acknowledging it, both to let the speaker know that you're understanding and are participating in the conversation. You're actually acknowledging and are paying attention to what they are saying, rather than having your brain go into drone mode where you're just sitting there staring at them or not even looking at them. Maybe you're looking down at your phone or something and your brain's somewhere else and you're only passively listening, which isn't good if you're in like school or something, and especially in lectures, and you're only passively listening because you miss most of the important points of the conversation, whether it's questions or statements or important information about the topic. Second, acknowledge others. We are social creatures by nature. So many people get very downtrodden when they don't get recognized or acknowledged by others. And it can be anything from, congratulating a friend on an award they won or a great game-winning shot that they got in sports, to anything as saying good morning to people. And actually, Mr. Forni advocates that when you walk into your place of work or school, you just say good morning or good afternoon and acknowledge people as they go, and call out their names, ask how they are. This is something I have personally practiced, and it has actually led me to improved social interactions as well as establishing some good lifelong friendships. Think the best. When people cancel on you or something happens that you don't like, we tend to think the worst or as a personal attack on us. Whereas Mr. Forney advocates that we take it instead and putting ourselves in the other person's shoes or looking at it from the opposite perspective in order to gain a better understanding. Maybe this person couldn't attend my party because he had to go visit his grandparents or watch after his siblings. It's not always a worst case scenario attack on yourself. Fourth is listen. I think this ties in with pay attention, but I guess paying attention could also be tied in to being aware of your surroundings. As we all know, some people who drive in less than stellar capacity tend to go into drone mode, and they're driving and playing on their phone or something like that, and they're swerving and weaving all over the road. So anyway, so listening, be an active listener, participate in the conversation. 5 is be inclusive. I know we've all heard it since kindergarten, be inclusive, accept everyone for who they are, but it works. We all have established social groups that we feel comfortable in and talking with, whether it's a family, friends, classmates. But outsiders and any human being wants to be included in the group. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. It's part of our social interactions and our survival instincts. So he says, if there's someone new, invite them in. Don't be attacking them or derogatory. Actually, Mr. Forney references that a woman was speaking Italian. She wasn't a native Italian speaker. She had learned it in, I think, college. So she was talking and made friends with a group of native Italian speakers while she was on vacation. And they were laughing and joking and talking and such. And then out of the blue, after someone had told a joke and everyone had laughed, the lady in question got yelled at by another gentleman, one of the native Italian speakers, who said, "You shouldn't laugh if you didn't understand what was being said," to her, and I think it was in English. To which it kind of just like killed the mood, so to speak. Whether he meant it as a joke or a personal attack, it was not known at the time, and it's still not known, but it still hurts because it points you out as an outsider, that you're not really part of the group. So try to be inclusive and try to steer the conversation towards something they may be interested in to help them build social connections and interactions, as well as improve your own. Make a friend. 6, speak kindly. I think this 6 and 7 go right together. Speak kindly and don't speak ill. Basically, don't gossip, because gossip only breeds drama, and drama only breeds stress, and we don't need stress in life. If you don't have something kind to say about someone, don't say it at all. I realize we all have complaints or legitimate criticisms about people, but if we are going to criticize them, especially in a in-depth capacity, we should take them aside and base it solely on the facts of the case and do it dispassionately. So maybe detach yourself from the situation and wait a little while and then go back to, but never be derogatory to anyone, either behind their back or in front of a large group. So speak kindly and don't speak ill. Accept and give praise. I know we all try to be modest today and humble, but some of us better than others. But I think it is important that we all learn how to accept and give praise, because many people, especially nowadays, and I admit I'm equally guilty of this, we don't want to accept praise. So we either accept it and then immediately give a compliment to that person back, or we just say, oh, make a joke of it saying, oh, I wasn't really that good, and brush it off, which it hurts both ourselves because it's like we're knocking at our own self-esteem. And second, it hurts the person who was giving the compliment because it seems like you were being insincere, that you feel that they were being insincere, or that you don't accept the compliment because you don't value their input. So it can hurt people as much as the deriding a compliment can hurt the giver as much as the receiver. So you need to learn to accept praise in and of itself, and then give praise. Give genuine compliments. Don't give, be a flatterer or give, meaningless platitudes. If you see something, say, oh, I like your hat. Give a compliment like that. Let it be natural and come from the heart. Uh, Respect even a subtle no. We all have that friend that'll keep pestering and pestering and pestering you until you do something, especially if it's something that's in their direct benefit. We all need to learn to respect a subtle no. Say, for instance, you're inviting friends over for a party on Tuesday, and all of a sudden, because of, the venue has to change because it was raining. So you have to move it to Wednesday. If you call up your friends and all of them say, "Hey, oh yeah, we're going to go," but there's like one or two people that say, I have to watch my younger brother, or I have soccer practice." Don't try to pressure them into going. Respect their no. It was good on Tuesday, but it's not so good on Wednesday. It shows that you respect and value your relationship with the person, as well as your willingness to be flexible and compromise. 10, and I think this is very important, especially for nowadays, is respect others' opinions. Opinions, as my mother says, are like noses. Everyone has one. So we need to learn to respect each other. We can still be friends, but you don't need to necessarily hold the same opinions. Actually, it's kind of bad if you and your friend group hold all the same opinions, because you create just an echo chamber where everyone believes everything, and it just hardens your ideological stance in any particular thing. Like, say, all your friends are New York Giants fans. I'm only saying this because I'm from New York State. So the more and more you spend time with them, the more hardened you are going to be a New York Giants fan, and the more you're going to oppose someone who, say, supports the New England Patriots because they're a controversial team. So you need to find people with diverse opinions and learn from them, but respect them. You can argue and debate and disagree as friends. Look at the relationship of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. If you don't know, look up the John Adams miniseries on HBO, and it'll give you a pretty good example of a friendly disagreement of opinions, but with respecting the genuine intentions of those opinions. So yes, that it is important. Respect other people's opinions. So 11, mind your body. Now this can be taken in several ways, but Mr. Forni in the book takes it basically as keeping yourself clean and hygienic, both for your own health, but it also gives you a boost to your confidence and self-esteem, and helps smooth over your social interactions. In addition, it also kind of means keep your hands to yourself. Don't initiate contact unless asked to do it, or if you're really close friends, like say you're consoling a friend who just went through a bad breakup, it's all right to tap them on the back or give them a hug or something like that. But if it's a new stranger, anything beyond a handshake, even those are going out of style, but anything beyond like a handshake or a high five is kind of frowned upon, especially if you're only acquaintances or practically strangers. 12, be agreeable. I know this kind of goes against our modern day thinking of expressing ourselves, but you don't need to be agreeable in everything. If your friend is saying they hate basketball, well, they're welcome to that opinion and you should respect it, but they shouldn't be trying to force you to not play basketball because they hate basketball. What be agreeable means in this particular instance is don't be that obstinate person. Say you're on a family vacation and with a couple close friends and your family, and everyone wants to go out to this seaside restaurant, serves you food, you're almost right on the beach. But you want to go to the pizza place 2 blocks over. Be agreeable in the sense that don't be obstinate like we only are going to go to the pizza place tonight. I refuse to go anywhere else. Instead, acknowledge, all right, we'll go to the seafood place tonight, and then we'll go to the pizza place tomorrow night. That's really what it means. Actually, in Mr. Forni's book, he uses a more drastic example with a wife and husband are on vacation with a few close friends, in Paris, and the wife and the friends want to go and view Paris architecture. See the Louvre, see the not Leaning Tower of Pisa, see the Eiffel Tower, and he just wants to shop for new shirts in some of Paris's deluxe department stores. And he's like, absolutely, I refuse. I am not going to see architecture. I am bored by architecture and art. I'm going to go shop for shirts. And his wife, out of a feeling of obligation, goes with him, despite the fact that she really wanted to go see the architecture and the art. What the husband could have done in this instance was be agreeable. He's like, all right, I'll compromise with you. We'll go see the art and architecture today, and then we'll go buy my new shirts tomorrow. 13, keep it down and rediscover silence. Basically, this means be quiet and respect other people's quiet time. Don't play your drums or set off fireworks unless it's 4th of July or Guy Fawkes Day, at 9 o'clock or midnight. Don't start your lawnmower before 9 o'clock on a weekend. Just be considerate of others. Some people may be sleeping, some people may be studying for an exam. So keep your noise to a reasonable level. 14, respect other people's time. I know many of us think, oh, we have tons and tons of time, but that's the value of youth. As you get older, you realize that time is really not an infinite commodity, but is actually the only truly valued commodity on this planet. So what we need to do is, if you make a commitment, keep it. If you say you're going to show up for that interview at 5 o'clock, be at that interview by 5 o'clock. I personally run by the rule of thumb of trying to be 10 minutes early, just in case there's traffic or I have to fill out paperwork or something like that. But it's important that you respect the time, because we all are given a certain amount of time, and you're wasting it if you say, "Oh, I'll be at my friend's house for the party at 3," and then don't show up till 5, because it shows that you don't respect the person enough or value their time enough to show up on time for them. If you're running late, we all run late occasionally. Things happen, but if you're running late more than 5 to 10 minutes, call them and let them know. Make sure that you acknowledge that you are running late and that things will start later than what had been initially anticipated because you will be arriving later. So be honest. And yeah, so that's critically important. Respect other people's space. Again, that kind of comes back to the mind your body idea expressed earlier. Basically, everyone has their own zone, their own little bubble in which they feel comfortable. In the United States, we have a bigger view of personal space, maybe 3 to 4 feet out from us. In, say, Italy or Japan, that space is far, far smaller. So we have to be cognizant of that fact to prevent cultural and misunderstandings in new environments. But on the whole, we should respect and not get into people's faces or get up close and engage in bodily contact that the other person feels uncomfortable with. 16, apologize earnestly and thoughtfully. Many people say when they're doing something, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but it's like in the heat of the moment, and most of the time, most people don't really mean it, and they will go back to doing exactly what they were apologized for no more than 10 minutes down the road. So instead, if you need to, take the time and detach yourself from the situation, look at what you did wrong, and then come back and apologize for it thoughtfully and earnestly. Say, "I'm sorry, I did such and such. I was thinking this and this. I was do. I know it's wrong. I will learn from my mistake in the future." Always start off with a genuine apology, and don't go into too much detail or in depth in your explanation or justification, especially if it isn't solicited by the person, because sometimes the person will just acknowledge and accept the apology, especially if it's thoughtfully done. But others will want a sort of, why were you doing that? Close friends because they want to make sure you are all right as well as themselves, and bosses because, yelling at your boss does have consequences. 17, assert yourself. I know that kind of disagrees with number 12, be agreeable, but assert yourself if there's a fundamental difference. You know, if your friend advocates for, let's say, a certain sports team. We'll use the New York Giants and the Patriots again. And he's like trying to convince you to go to a New York Giants game and wear New York Giants gear. Assert yourself as a Patriots fan, or vice versa. And this can be in any context, but I'm using the sports context because most people will relate to it. But yes, if it's your own personal opinion or as it fundamentally differs with what you believe in, assert yourself. If you're going to a seafood, if you're, say your group of friends want to go to a seafood restaurant, and you're deathly allergic to seafood, assert yourself. Don't go there and, drink water and eat the breadsticks all night while your friends are gorging themselves on lobster, crab, and crayfish. Assert yourself and what you feel is necessary and within your own, in line with your own morals and beliefs. 18, avoid personal questions. I know, especially when we're in close friends, we can sometimes lose sight of this. We can ask inappropriate questions like, "Oh, how much did that cost you?" Or, how much do you make a year? There's three topics, especially if you're only acquaintances or strangers with the person you just met. Never talk about politics, religion, or money, because there are three topics that are overly personal to someone. If you see them wearing a cross or something like that, say, "Oh, I had a cross like that," and it can lead into a conversation. But allow them to disclose what they want. Don't inquire, "What church are you part of?" Such like that, because it can be seen as intrusive. So, especially if you're just meeting someone, avoid the more personal interrogative questions. Care for your guests. I know probably most teenagers don't have guests, at least those that stay for longer than 2 or 3 days. But it's important that you take care of them. Make sure that they're comfortable. If you're setting someone up in your house, make sure you have a place for them to sleep available. Make sure you have enough food in the house, that they have a place to keep their things while they're there, and take them out on excursions or do activities inside the house. You know, make their stay as enjoyable and fun as possible. 20, be a considerate guest, because as the great Benjamin Franklin said, fishing guests stink after 3 days. And as Shakespeare said, the most the unwelcome guest is most welcomest when he is gone. So be considerate. Don't bring your dog or your children. I hope none of you have, none of the teenagers listening to this have children, but when you're there, take good care of it. Don't leave their apartment or room or house a mess. Don't leave, your dirty laundry strayed all over the place. Keep things nice and tidy and packed away. Try to leave the house and their possessions in the same condition that they were. Don't inquire or enter their personal study or bedroom, or if they have a master bath attached to the bathroom, don't go to the master bath because it may have a better bathtub or shower. Use the one that's been provided to you. So you can give your host the same privacy that they would normally have if someone was there, to a lesser extent because you're still there, but give them the same amount of privacy and respect for their property, as well as, even if they don't, the experiences they have are not as enjoyable as you may have hoped. The games played, the activities done, the excursions undertaken may not be necessarily your cup of tea. Still, enjoy the time you've spent with a friend or family member, and speak only nice things about your experience there. If there are a few things that you found odd or disconcerting, bring it up with them at a later date. Unless, of course, it's, oh, the water heater is flooding the basement now. Then you should probably tell them. 21. Think twice before asking favors. I know many of us ask for favors probably almost every day. I know I've been equally guilty of it on occasion to ask one or more favors from my sister, because we'll be imposing ourselves upon them. Plus, we'll also be incurring a debt of both gratitude and sometimes service, because we think we have to repay favors with favors back. So, a good example of a good favor is uh, you and your friend are relaxing out by the pool, and your friend decides to go in and get some iced tea. And you ask him, "Oh, could you grab me an iced tea while you're in there?" That's a perfectly fine favor. But if it requires the person to break a law, policy, or ethical boundary, it should not be a favor asked. Say your friend works at the local library, and you ask him to drop off, check out a book for you, that a particular book that you want in his name, and bring it to you. That is a favor that is a bit extreme, and only if it's like you can't leave the house, and the person you're asking the favor of should be a good friend, someone who trusts you enough to not renege on the deal or keep the book past due, which would incur fines for him. So yes, be very conscious of what favors you ask and the size and degree in which you ask them. 22. Refrain from idle complaints. I'm sure we've all been there. Oh, it's horrible weather today, stuff like that. But first off, it brings us mentally down. It lowers us, both our enjoyment of the day and, how we see the rest of the day. If you start off your day in a negative mindset, most of the rest of the day will be negative for you. So if you have a genuine complaint, like, we'll use a restaurant example here. Oh, my food is cold. Now that's a genuine complaint. You call the waitress over, have her take your food back and have it rewarmed, then come back so you can have a nice warm meal. But idly complaining that, say you don't like the drapery or something like that, that's just an idle complaint. That's not something that's really constructive. Which leads us into 23. Give constructive criticism. Your criticism should be specific, it should have an explanation for it, and it should have a piece of advice on how to improve it. Now, this doesn't need to be exactly explicit. I dislike this because of this, and here's how I think you should change it. You can mix it in and mix and mash the different parts as you see fit. But it's important that it be constructive. Criticism like, "You're a horrible person," while it may feel good for you at the time, hurts both your relationship with the person you're criticizing, and it hurts the self-esteem and beliefs of the person you're criticizing without providing any value in return. We're all going to have those criticisms of us on personal basis, where someone unjustly attacks us. So we should try to refrain from doing that in our own discussions. Occasionally, tempers will be lost and feathers will fly. But all in all, we should be conscious of criticizing based on the situation or event rather than a personal attack. And we must learn to see the lessons in the criticism, even if they are personally motivated attacks against us. 24. Respect the environment and be gentle to animals. I think this is a no-brainer. Especially, we've learned over the past 40 years since the first Earth Day was inducted way back in the 70s, that our environment is not a limitless resource. So we need to conserve it and preserve it for our future generations. National parks, recycling, biking rather than driving a car. Anything you can do to decrease your footprint on this planet and your impact on it environmentally is a good thing. And be gentle to animals. Animals are just like us. They have lives, they have families to a greater or lesser extent, and we should treat them kindly, because every life is precious, whether it be a mosquito or a squirrel. Now, I'm not saying you should go out and let mosquitoes bite you or anything like that, but you should be kind and conscious of the environment and the animals. And if you have a pet, be kind to it. Don't, yank on it, drag it, or otherwise abuse it, because it has feelings too, and you can hurt it as much emotionally as you can physically, just like a regular human. And then lastly, 25, don't shift responsibility and blame. I'm sure we've all been there. I've done it on more than one occasion. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. That we shift responsibility or blame to someone else or something else. Oh, it wasn't my fault. My sister did it, or the dog ate my homework. That's that popular excuse from the 90s was. It only hurts us in the long run because the person we shift the blame to, or event that we shift the blame to, gets its feelings hurt. Now, oh, I couldn't mow the lawn because it rained. The rain's not going to be hurt by, but it's going to hurt your relationship with the person who's asking you. Say, we'll use an example here. Your mother asks you to mow the lawn at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. It's not supposed to rain till 5 o'clock. So you have a good 7 hours in which you can mow the lawn before it's supposed to start to rain. But you wait and you wait and you wait, and 4:45 rolls around, and all of a sudden the rain clouds open up. And then your mom comes home and asks you, why didn't you mow the lawn? He says, oh, couldn't mow the lawn because it started raining and yada, yada, yada. It discredits you to your mom. And we'll use another one. In the workplace, you're asked to get a project done, or you're put in charge of a project and you're asked to get it done. And, everyone works together and pitches in, but you don't get the project done on time. So instead of taking responsibility as a group, or you as an individual because you were the leader, you pass it off to the least liked member of the group. You hurt your relationship with the least liked member of the group, and he sees you as personally attacking him when it's collective responsibility or your personal responsibility. Well, also, it worsens your relationship with your boss. Not in the short term, because they may believe you, but in the long term, they will start to not trust you, and you'll lose the ability to act independently. So we must be conscious of the fact of shifting responsibility and blame. Plus, it also hurts you, because in the long run, you're not learning from the mistake or the experience by accepting responsibility. So you're missing out on a lesson that could have helped you improve your life overall. So that was the rules of civility, or Choosing Civility by P.M. Forni. As always, I have my sources in further reading. Most of it came from my reading of Choosing Civility by P.M. Forni. I would have put the book up here, but I got it from the library, so I had to return it before I could make this video. Also, there's a good website for the Johns Hopkins Civility Project. Link, I will leave that in the description below. Here's some further reading. This is just basically book summaries and outlines, as well as other book reviews on this particular book. I really enjoyed this book while reading, and there was a lot of both scientific and anecdotal information, which I found fascinating. So I highly advise that everyone read it. I'm a big reader myself, but if that's not your cup of tea, you can download it as an ebook or an audiobook and listen to it. Doesn't have to be, the good old-fashioned, rocking chair, blanket, and book in your hand. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this program. If you liked, don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on that bell button for notifications. Comment below how your 30-day challenge is going, as well as any ideas for future topics or any books for future book reviews. I also look forward to any advice you can give on how I can improve this channel. And this is the PNN Broadcast signing off.